Tron Ares is not Tron 3, potentially. I'll explain why. So since my last video, we've actually had some reshoots done in the past month after the D23 event where the trailer was unveiled. These reshoots were actually done in Mexico. Now this was seen on Instagram stories from the director Joachim Ronning. If you take a look at this specific picture, on the side there's a motorcycle, and we could potentially be seeing an end credit scene of Sam, Flynn, and Cora right here. And I say this because Garrett Hedlund has been talking quite a bit about Tron Ares. He spoke about it a couple weeks ago. He basically said with the original movie Tron Ascension, they were almost ready to go in the 2013-2015 range. And obviously things didn't work out because Disney had Marvel and Star Wars. He's really showing his support for this new film because it's taken a long time to get off the ground. We obviously had COVID, the strikes. It's just a miracle that this movie was able to be made. But he does state if this movie is successful, we might get the sequel to Legacy. Now, that's a very interesting comment, and we'll return to that in just a moment. But first, I want to go over the interview he did with Collider a few weeks ago, and he once again hinted at the possibility of us seeing Sam and Cora again. So nothing is confirmed, but the fact that he's talking about the Legacy sequel rather than Ares being the official sequel, it's very interesting because, of course, aspects of Ares is just repurposed from Ascension. There's certain elements. If you saw some of the concept art that have been out there for years, this is a red program. It looks just like Ares. This is from the canceled 2015 movie. And if you look at this art piece from another designer, this looks just like the Tron City that's in the teaser trailer for Tron Ares. So it shows tons of concepts from Ascension are carried over. So it could be that a piece of the story has been left out for another sequel down the road with the Legacy cast, because obviously in the original version of Ascension, we were still going to get Jared Leto's character, but it was going to be a way smaller role. And the only reason that Leto's in this movie, apparently, according to the interview, is because he had to be the main character, which I think kind of sucks because it kind of set the Legacy cast up for failure of not returning. But like Garrett said, there's a huge chance of them returning in the future. We'll just have to wait and see. This is not the only thing we have to talk about regarding this movie, because there is also the soundtrack clip that did come out recently. It also came from Joachim Ronning's Instagram story, and this is the clip. And as you can see, it was the same police chase scene that we went over in the first video. He's actually shown screenshots of this scene quite a bit, so it must be a big scene to look forward to. And the soundtrack sounds decent. You don't really hear enough of 9 Inch Nails OST to get a feel for this movie yet, but at the moment, it seems decent. As for in my last video when we talked about Jeff Bridges returning, it's actually been theorized that Sam's necklace at the end of Legacy contains Kevin's consciousness or some backup for it, which would line up perfectly with Sam returning to Encom and seeing Kevin back in Encom's grid in this movie. And I completely agree with this. They did subtly hint it, so that is a great explanation. Also, as for why he has purple light lines, I saw comments explaining the fact that, of course, Clue and Flynn merged, so we're not getting Flynn or Clue. So we're going to move away from the movie into the gaming news. And there's actually quite a bit of information. Now, we're going to get this small one out of the way that you might not care about as much. This is Fortnite. So, of course, back in 2021, there was the Tron skins. They were kind of cool. I'm not the biggest fan of them. I feel like they could have done better. I think Fall Guys did a much better job. But regardless, they're going to be bringing potentially Tron Ares skins to the game. Now, credit to Daily Dose of Tron. I saw this first from him. Hopefully, they're more accurate than the ones we got before. Maybe they can release an updated version with Sam and Cora instead of giving them random names and making them just look similar. Now, earlier this week, we got a huge announcement regarding a brand new neo-noir action-adventure Tron game called Tron Catalyst. And this is by Bithell Games, who also made Tron Identity. This game is not going to be like the first one because that one was a visual novel. And as you can see from the gameplay of the main character, they are named EXO and they are fighting a group of programs with orange light lines, which are called the Core. She's facing them, and there's another problem on top of it, which is known as the glitches. And it's a potential virus probably just messing the grid up. We can actually see Query right here. We can also hear him talking to EXO, and he does look quite different different, which is kind of interesting. We're getting new designs a little bit. Also, we have probably quite a time jump since the last time we saw him. But one thing I love about this game is voice acting. We can actually hear Exo's voice and Query's voice, and we actually got a confirmation on the voice actor for Exo on Twitter, which is awesome. Now, I just have to say, I really like Exo's design. Super cool. Her hair is like half Derez. Her arm is kind of like Rasket from Tron Uprising after dealing with Pavel. Her arm, it isn't the only thing that's cool because she actually will have an ability to create time loops, and this will happen at the beginning of the game. So there's going to be some time travel shenanigans, and it's going to be one of the main elements of the game. But we also do see there's a light cycle battle here. They look slightly different. They're mostly the same. Looks solid. We've also got some other cool vehicles on the side like the tanks and this car over here. There's also some light swords. And I will say one other thing that I really like, besides the voice acting of course, is how similar this game is to Escape from Oregon, which was a game back in the day for Tron Uprising. It was on Disney's website, and it really works for Tron fans in the modern day and in the old days. It's a timeless game in my opinion, and it just feels like Bithell Games has so much respect for this franchise. Now I know for some of you loyal fans, you may have the question on continuity. This game is taking place in the Arc grid, just like the first game Identity. This grid is a backup server that Flynn created for the ISOs, but the timeline is a bit unclear since obviously you have to choose what happens in Identity, but there is a general timeline that's not fully explored, as Mike Bithell explained on his Twitter account. But they do clarify that you don't have to play Identity to play this game, though it would be cool because the story is solid honestly. But this game will be available on Steam and consoles sometime in 2025, so no one's really going to be left out, and I'm going to guess that it'll drop in April or May, since that's around the time Identity came out last year, basically 6 months after the announcement. And looking at the logo right here, you can see that the Tron Catalyst logo, it is the aesthetic of Legacy, and of course if we look at the Tron Ares logo, it's a little different, but it'll be interesting to see if in future games they'll keep this or if they'll go more towards the Ares design, because they do clarify they know what comes later in the timeline, so we may even see this grid in Ares. Now, I don't think we will, but that's the latest information we currently have on all things Tron. If you want more information, I suggest you subscribe because many more Tron videos are coming to the channel.